Hello, my name is Bianca Johnson, and I will be presenting the expert testimony. I am the digital forensics investigator representing Team Canada along with Spencer, Charles, and Michael. In Project 1, a cybersecurity policy and baseline report was created. The purpose of the cybersecurity policy baseline report is to conduct a baseline analysis leading up to the Global Economic Summit with the Five Eyes Alliance. The Government of Canada has been tasked with establishing secure lines of communication for Canada's network, in which we'll be using Port 443 and OpenVPN. A comparison of the 50 nations' policies was completed so that Canada was able to decide which policies they wanted to utilize to encourage the flow of intelligence sharing between its allies. Lab reports were completed involving Wireshark to find information and vulnerabilities. Nexus was also used to discover vulnerabilities found within a specific IP address and was ran against a specific audit format to ensure it adheres to Canadian government policies. The vulnerability report stated that a specific Microsoft operating system was vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks because weak encryption policies were being used. Also during the scan, it was discovered that certain security updates needed to be implemented immediately. Nexus Vulnerability Scanner provided information to effectively deploy a patch management strategy to all computers that were at risk. Using public key infrastructure for the security of electronic communication provides authentication, encryption, and non-repudiation. In Project 2, the host nation notified each participating nation's CISO that their intrusion detection system has detected anomalous network traffic before the commencement of the summit, and that each cyber team should perform forensic analysis on their systems. Attack vectors were identified as well as an attribution analysis. The organization's security weaknesses were explained as they related to people, technology, and policy. A vulnerability and risk matrix was created to analyze the attack vectors and suggest methods for their mitigation attack. An incident response plan was created to explain how to respond to an attack and share the findings with the administrators. In the lab report, Wireshark and Snort were used to analyze packet captures as DOS attacks, network scanning, and brute force attacks were suspected. Snort rules were developed based on indicators for HTTP and GT errors to detect and identify the attack that occurred on the network. To prevent a DOS attack, the incident response plan will be deployed and the security response team must identify the bad actor's IP addresses or domain and forward all the information obtained to the administrators. In Project 3, the Government of Canada had to respond to a ransomware attack that occurred on an HR employee's device. The Canadian Business Continuity Plan was created to ensure network service delivery never stops. It designed responses for ransomware, ransomware payments, rogue access point detections, DOS attacks, and insider threat attacks. In the Cyber Operations and Risk Management briefing, topics such as software insurance, supply chain risks, and software development life cycles were discussed. The intelligence briefing gave a description on the SITREP 1, SITREP 2, and the Business Continuity Plan. In the lab reports, Wireshark was used to analyze packet capture and identify the external entities that the infected workstation communicated with after the execution of the malicious code. The team then found a cryptogram on the WordPress site that the initial malicious code had reached out to. OPH crack was then used to uncover the password used to decrypt the user workstation. Snort rules were created to detect and stop any activity found within the attack, and all data was recovered without paying the ransom. The first question: what are the legal challenges associated with cyber incidents involving foreign countries? And how do internal laws affect e-discovery? All countries have different cyber laws that they must adhere to. Data privacy legislations are ruled by areas within the country, which means a legal process that is administered in one country may not be legal in another. Internal laws can affect data retrieval methods, data storage methods, and data analysis procedures for e-discovery. It is essential that a chain of custody form be completed to ensure evidence is handled correctly according to the country's laws. In Canada, the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act is the main law impacting cyber law. It deals with the privacy of Canadian citizens and the lengths to which the private and public sector entities must go to protect it. Next question. What are the legal challenges of accessing and retrieving electronic evidence stored on foreign soil? And assuming cloud storage was used, what procedures were followed to access and retrieve digital evidence stored in the cloud? When retrieving electric evidence stored on foreign soil, we must remember that the laws must be followed in the country where the evidence is stored. For instance, if a digital forensic investigator from Australia wanted to retrieve data from an Australian citizen's Google Drive, but the data is stored in Canada, the investigator must follow the Canadian laws when seizing the evidence. In order to access and retrieve digital evidence stored in a cloud, the company that is storing the data must first grant permission. However, national laws in which the storing company was integrated can dictate where the company can store its data. Next question, specific to Canada. How did the international laws and jurisdictions influence the processes and procedures followed during the forensic investigation? Specific to Canada, international laws and jurisdictions had little influence during the forensic investigation. Mostly the information required for the investigation was based on Canadian information systems, so evidence collection was an easy process. Throughout the investigation, the investigators had to make sure that protecting Canadian citizens' personally identifiable information was a top priority. Next question. What conflicts arose between ethics and international laws during the investigations? How did these conflicts affect the investigations? And how were the conflicts mitigated or resolved? Conflicts tend to arise between ethics and law. Accessing private information is one of the main issues during a forensic investigation. Digital forensic investigators must follow the rules and regulations of the investigation in order for their actions to be protected by law. They must only collect information that is relevant to the case. The just cause standard was presented so that investigators have proper authorization to conduct the investigation and collect evidence. And the last question. What steps were taken to protect United States soil and citizens during the international investigation? Describe any risk to the country, business, or citizens from your investigations. One of the steps to protect the United States soil and citizens during the international investigation was implementing the chain of custody process to document all persons who have had interaction with the data. SNORT rules were created to prevent future attacks and were shared with the other 50 nations. Some recommendations are system configuration baselines and proper security training. Risks to the country, business, or citizens are losing private information. There are no more questions. Thank you for your time.